Assignment 3.3 Stress, Anxiety and Arousal in Sport. Stress, anxiety and arousal all can have an influence on an athlete's performance in competition. I will explain in turn in this video how the cognitive and somatic reactions of each of these can impact a player's performance both positively and negatively according to two scenarios of college badminton and netball players. In 1991, Lazarus provided us with the definition of stress as follows. Stress is generally discussed in relation to an imbalance between the demands of the situation encountered by an individual and the perceived ability to cope with or adjust to these demands. This is suggesting that stress is the body's response to the physical, mental, or emotional situation demands and can be either positive or negative depending on the perception and response of the player. The two paths of a player can follow is either to eustress or distress following a stressor. A stressor is a stimulus that can cause a feeling or state of stress in a person. These can be categorized into the following: sports environment, for example, the nature of the competition; internal, possibly lack of sleep; personal life, these could be significant people like family; occupational, for example, work; and external, for example, the weather. Eustress is the beneficial type of stress which is caused by a positive response to a stressor and can provide better performance for the athlete. On the other hand, distress is the negative form of stress which can lead to an extreme form of anxiety and apprehension. This can cause their performance to deteriorate. The demand can be seen as a challenge or threat by the athlete. The recognition of it being a challenge will make the player experience eustress, which increases motivation, concentration and focus, consequently improving performance. In comparison, the thought of it being a threat will cause distress, which will increase worry due to the perceived inability to meet demands, and therefore reduce performance. Stress can be detected either somatically, cognitively, or behaviourally. Somatic symptoms are physiological, for example, an increase in heart rate and breathing rate, a dry mouth, or sweating. Cognitive symptoms of stress are psychological, for example, a decrease in enthusiasm, narrowed attention, or worrying. Lastly, behavioural symptoms can be observed and noticed by others, for example, talking, eating, or walking quickly, fidgeting, or clumsiness. In the first scenario, Nick plays badminton and is described as being the number 2 seed for the college. This implies that his talent allows him to be the second best player. As a result of this, he has a reputation that he needs to uphold. This pressure could be seen as an occupational stressor that he needs to respond to. Furthermore, he would have to play in consistently difficult games against strong opponents at a high standard, which could be seen as a sports environment stressor. Another stressor could be the fact that he has a new coach and feels pressure to impress them. The coach clearly has high expectations, which can further apply pressure on Nick to perform well. From the statement, he has been struggling to play well all season. This shows that he has seen the stresses as a threat rather than a challenge, causing him to experience distress, which has evidently been impacting his performance in games. In the second scenario, it is said that Sarah, the goal shoot, fails in league games against Lewis and Varndine. The fact that she is the team's goal shoot, this shows that she has pressure to fulfil her role and score for the team, which could be an occupational stressor. League games alone may be a stressor. If a team is competing for first place, then they'll have huge amounts of pressure to win games. However, being against local rival colleges will incur pressure to perform to win due to the rivalry and also reputation, which may be occupational and sports environmental stresses. Also, it says that the crunch games can possibly have many spectators. A large crowd or audience would be a sports environment stressor for any athlete because they have pressure from a large group of people to perform well, which shows that it's normal for this to have an effect on an athlete. However, it is said that her scoring average in these games at just 32%. This shows that Sarah has a negative perception of these stresses, causing her to experience distress in games and consequently negatively impact her performance. On the other hand, it is said that Rachel thrives on the atmosphere and challenge. This shows that she perceives the stresses as challenges rather than threats, allowing her to experience eustress in these games, improving her performance.